Welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast, where business leaders come to share their advice and journeys to success with existing and emerging leaders of America. Now, here's your host, Dylan Bloyd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast. Today, I'm joined by Malik Jackson, a 10-year NFL veteran, Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, and founder of the Care League.
Yes.
Malik's journey started with being drafted by the Denver Broncos, where he went on to win Super Bowl 50 and established himself as a key contributor on one of the league's top defenses. But what makes his story unique is what came after football. After a decade in the NFL, Malik stepped into the reality every athlete eventually faces, the moment the structure, identity, and routine of the game disappear, and you're forced to rebuild who you are without it. Today, he's built the Care League, a luxury concierge and wellness platform designed to support athletes with healthcare, access, lifestyle management, and long-term well-being. In this episode, we'll talk about life in the NFL, the financial realities behind the scenes, and how his transition out of the game ultimately led him to building a company centered around care, structure, and support. Malik, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, Dylan? Man, I appreciate the platform. Good to see you again, brother. How
Yeah,
you
good to
doing?
see.
Happy
Yeah,
Memorial Day weekend.
yes, sir, man. Hope you are having a great time, and it's getting to spend some time with your family, and hoping you guys are barbecuing, doing all the good things.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we're living it up over here. It's a beautiful day out here in Southern California. Got the dogs, got the little one, so we're definitely gonna live it up.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, great weather up here in northern Nevada as well, thankfully. It always seems like this weekend always ends up getting rain or snow or something
Mm,
crazy, right? And so,
mm-hmm.
yeah, no, great weather. We're gonna get some bad weather coming up here soon, but it's all good. But
Hey,
yeah, man. So I'm excited to get to talk to you again, and I'm excited for you to tell your story. So if you could just kind of take us to the beginning when you first realized football could be more than just, something you loved. Was there a specific moment when you really clicked for you, like this could actually be your path?
great question. So I think for me, thinking back to it, um, I well, let's say this. I know it had to be more because when I was in Pop Warner, my dad pulled me and my brother to a side. We were like 12 and told us if we want to go to college or take a little further, we had to get scholarships, right? Just understanding that we were, middle class family and that paying for two kids to go to college wasn't just in their cards. And so I think that was when we realized, okay, if we want to do something, we need to start doing better to get scholarships. And then I think I realized I can be good at this, or it could be something else. I think you always have to have that like naive confidence as a football or as a kid playing in any sports. You know you're going to go to the pros, right? But I mean, realistically, I think it showed it can be more when I got a scholarship to go to University of Southern California. I think that's when it clicked to me like, okay, I'm pretty decent, right? And then
Yeah.
I played my first year, got unfortunately had some unfortunate events in my sophomore year where new coaches came in after my sophomore year and I had to get out of there. And then when I went to Tennessee, that's when it really dawned on me when I made the all SEC second team. I believe that okay, if I can play here, I can play anywhere. So that's probably the transition of the few years of like me realizing I can actually do this.
Right, yeah. So were you bigger than all the other kids growing up, like in Pop Warner, or were you always like pretty average? And then were you a late bloomer in high school, or were you always like one of the bigger kids? Obviously, you're a big man, So
Yeah, no, I was actually one of the taller kids. But other than that, it's funny because like, you like very little self-awareness when you're a kid, right? You just walk around and you're doing your thing and not looking at everybody. Now I'm very self-aware of how tall I am. But back then I was just like, oh, I'm just a kid. But definitely looking back and watching film, I was definitely taller. But I think my dad having the background in football that he had and the coaching he had really allowed me and my brother to be a little better than some of the other kids. And yeah, I can say it's always true, man. Never let your dad be your coach because the
right.
coaching doesn't end at the field.
No, it does not, dude. It's usually those car drives home, right? Car rides home, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, man, those are the worst conversations.
Mhm, dinner
I,
table, all that, man,
yeah.
it never stops.
Yep, you're right. No, exactly. What about positions? Did you always play D line, or were you moving around a lot when you were younger?
So me and my brother started off as middle linebackers.
Got
We
it.
had a little nickname, the 40 below brothers. I was 40, he was 42.
Nice.
And so yeah, that was our little thing. But we were linebackers and got to high school, and the great Ed Carosin from Birmingham High School said, "Hey, these guys are DNs," and so that's when we moved to DN.
Got it. That's pretty awesome. Especially have your brother there to play with, it's like having that best friend, built-in best friend, right?
Exactly. No, it was an honor and it was special. I really wish we could have taken a lot further, being at the college or NFL. But just being kids, having your own path and just making decisions and setting the course, right? But no, it was a special moment for me and him to have the success that we had and be able to be who we were.
Right, right. No, absolutely. So then fast forward to 2012, right? You get drafted by the Broncos. What was that moment like for you? And how quickly did it hit that, this is now a business and not just a game for you?
Yeah, so that was awesome. I went up to Victorville to my grandma's house at the time, and she lived there. First day we watched, I knew I wasn't going that day, just being realistic. Second day, I was like, I'm going. And then you see names being called, you're like, this is BS. And then the third day, got that call from John Elway and John Fox, and it was just a super cool moment. And with Jack Del Rio. And so then, driving home from my grandmother's house, I was like, okay, this is real. And then I think to your question, if it was real when you land in Denver and you get it on a bus and you see all the other draft picks, right? And then you take that 30-minute ride to the facilities and you realize like these are grown men here, like this, and they tell you like there's nothing higher than this, like right, like there either you make it here or you're done. And so really seeing that and being around that and just looking and I'll say this short story. It was a time we were in camp and I got the first playbook and the playbook was I wish I had something, but it was like this big, right? And so I'm looking at the playbook this big and I'm opening it up and I'm like, and I get the playbook and then I go home at the hotel that night and I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. I'm just like, I'm literally having headaches trying to remember the plays and do this and learn the adjustments and changes of if the middle linebacker calls this play, changes to this play. And I was like, "Man, I don't know if this is for me. I might really be done." And so that I just went to sleep like at 5 PM that night and woke up the next day like, "Nah, Imma do this." And so, then you get older and you realize like the book is this big, but we're doing these pages this day, these pages this day, these pages this day. And you realize the coach is calling the same play for the ones as he's gonna call for the threes. And so maybe if I just pay attention, right, I should be able to hear and understand. And so it started dawning on me a little bit and just realized I had to put some extra work in. And yeah, so that's probably when I realized it was real and there was nothing higher than this, and this was the it. This was it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it probably obviously starts to click, right? And then because it just takes repetition. Like even from high school to college, you're just like, okay, this is even a whole lot different. And then from the to the pros, I mean, you look at some of these quarterbacks in college, right? Who, they have the simplest offensive plays, and they go to the NFL and they're like, oh my gosh, and they were so successful in college, but then they drop off in the NFL because it's like
Yep.
it doesn't translate, right? And then vice versa,
Yep.
who maybe not have like a great college career, but then they just dominate in the NFL because of the fact that it just clicks for them, right? Just such a different game. Was it difficult switching from team to team as far as, or did it make a little bit more sense once you kind of figured that it all does kind of play together, just different lingo?
Well, the NFL, it does play together. It is different lingo, so you get that. It is hard because coaches want, you try to go in there and change a word to a phrase that you knew before, but they're like, nah, this is our scheme and this is our stuff. So, the terminology, once you have to change it to do the same things you've been doing for 4 years, kind of is a little tough, but
Yeah.
you learn to forget really fast. So that wasn't it was tough, but I think the biggest difficulty going team to team, just understanding you go from being on the Denver Broncos, you're like the guy, right? And then you get
Yes.
paid to go to Jacksonville, you're still the guy. You go to Philadelphia, they got Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Barnett, Curry, right? They have all these guys that have been there. It's Derek Barnett, Vinny Curry. So like you have all these guys that have been there. So you go from the guy to a guy, and then Cleveland, you kind of go back to the guy, but you're just a guy, right? And so
Right.
it's really understanding that and being able to humble yourself to realize when you get to Philly, maybe I don't have to say anything. Maybe this isn't my room, right? I'm gonna just sit here. I'm a follower just like these guys. So I think that's the hardest part. But you just get in where you fit in. You prove yourself. I think a lot of people understand when you get into sports and any business, when you get around a new team, they're all looking at you side eye because they're like, who is this guy? What does he do? Who is he? How can he do this stuff? Is he really as good as he's shown before, right? And so you have to really earn that. And I think once you earn that, then everybody kind of their shoulders drop and they allow you to come in the fold and be account and be part of their flock essentially.
Yeah, right. No, for sure. And I know Cleveland was later in your career, but when you were playing like with the Broncos and you won your Super Bowl, you got to play again with guys, like Von Miller and Demarcus Ware. Did that help kind of, change the way you approach the game and kind of elevate you and then kind of help with you going to other teams and understand how you need to prepare?
Definitely. I think being able to the one thing I learned going into the NFL early is how to shut up and watch, right? You have
Mm,
two eyes, one mouth, right? Two ears. So use those tools to be able to do a lot more than speaking. So and I say that to say When coach say, okay, cool, we're going to do this drill. Instead of me going to the front of the line, I would stay in the back end. Like, okay, let me see what these guys do. Let me learn, right? When Von Miller was doing his pass rushes or D Ware was doing their pass rushes, well, let me learn. Let me see how I can make what they do mine, right? These guys have a lot of praise. They're really good. So how can I be like them? And so being able to sit down, be quiet, go in the meeting rooms, listen to what they have to say, look at their notes, pick their brain, was huge for me, right? And then as you get more confidence and you start seeing things, like I said, with the pass rushes of D Ware and Vaughn, you're like, okay, well, I see Vaughn dips like this and does this. I can't do that. My ankles don't work like that. My knees don't work like that, but how can I make this my own? Right. And so really having examples of guys like that, Sean Phillips of the world, Elvis Dumervils of the world, right? Kevin Vickerson's, Terrence Knightons, to be able to see how they play the run game, how they take double teams, how they do pass rushes, how they play the pass game. It really allowed me to be able to take that, go home, digest, sit in the dark, digest it, make it my own, and come back and have the success I have. So I really attribute a lot of the success I have to being able to be around those guys and be able to sit down, listen, be quiet, and make what they did my own for sure.
Right. Well, being that it is a business, these guys don't want you to take your position, right? So were there any guys that did actually take you under their wing, or was it more along the lines of like, figure it out yourself, young gun, like I'm gonna do me and you're gonna have to figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's the horror stories of the NFL, right? I mean, and like you said, this is the livelihood now. Guys have kids, families, they can't afford to lose this opportunity, right? Because we all put our eggs in one basket, so to speak. I think a side note, us as NFL, the league should do a little bit better job of making when you hire an NFL guy that exclusive, like a Yale graduate or a Harvard graduate, because we do have a lot of training, we do have a lot of resources, right? It's just we need to make it better that it's not just for sports, but nonetheless. So yeah, so it's funny. I go in the league the first time. Excuse me, on one of my first few days when I got drafted, I looked up the roster. I said, okay, cool, cool, cool. And I said, I saw this guy, and I finally see him at the bottom of the roster. When I'm looking online, and then I go there, and I said, hey, brother, like I'm gonna take your spot. And mind you, this guy's like 4 years in the league. He looks at me like, what the fuck are you talking about, fam? Like that was just the naiveness of me coming in thinking like I have to do this to do that, and he was like, bro, you're sick. And it's funny because he still helped me. But then to your point, when I went to Denver, I had a guy, Robert Ayers. He went to Tennessee beforehand, and it was pretty cool because I had the sentiment that I can't ask these guys anything because they're gonna tell me the wrong thing and I'm gonna mess up. But then you get guys like Robert Ayers, he's like, look, man, we don't play the same position. I'm a first round pick. You're not taking my spot. Whatever you need help with, just ask and I got you.
Mm,
And so being able to have that in my back pocket to say, okay, cool, this guy's not threatened by me and he's going to help me really added a lot of value to me to feel safe and have a safe place to go to talk to somebody and ask them questions, right? Because I mean, granted, when you're on the threes and you get your chances with the ones because you're doing fairly well, and you forget something, you're like, oh shit, hey Dylan, what's the play? What did I do? Blah blah blah.
yeah.
Cool. And then you do it and you're successful. You're like, oh, thank goodness, right? Because now you're just waiting for film later in the day. You're like, I can't wait till coach praises me because I did it right. Like I'm doing
Yeah.
good. So it really matters, and it really is a thing where guys are gatekeeping, so to speak, and not really allowing the young people to thrive. But you really can't be mad at them because one, I should know what I'm doing, right? One, fairly, but two, they understand there's a lot going on. I'm seeing a lot. I'm reading a lot. It's like I don't, and so just to be able to have cool guys makes a lot of sense. And I think that benevolence put it on me kind of really allowed me to do the same thing with younger guys. So I wasn't jaded. I was taught to be cool, educate the guys behind you, and so that made me. And I think I've made a lot of friends. Being in the league with the younger guys coming in, being able to help them do what they want to do and not take them as a threat.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it because then you even translate to the real world, right? I mean, it's like the better the people are next to you, the better you're going to be as a whole, as a unit, right?
Exactly.
Rather than worried all
Exactly.
the time. Of course, you got to make sure that you're doing everything you can to keep that because it's your job and everybody's fighting for that. It's probably the most competitive industry, in the world, sports,
Yep.
right? So everyone's
Yep.
trying to get on the field. They want to better you. They want to best you, but at the same time, if you can, eventually later in your career be a mentor to guys, they're going to take. I mean, you know how much it paid dividends for you, so you're just kind of paying it forward, right?
Yep, exactly. That's it. Paying it forward and giving guys the best opportunity, right? And understanding because the coaches are going to say some things sometimes, and they might not say some things. And so when you have an inside track and understand what they're looking for, and maybe hear some things, you just want to let them know, hey man, think about this, do this, or stop doing that. Um, Run to the ball, right? So it's just about being a good team player.
Right, exactly. And you got to think about it from a coach's perspective. They don't have time to sit there and explain every single play to every single player, especially the young
Mm-hmm.
guys, right? So when you
Mm-hmm.
have those guys to mentor you, and tell you and give you a little bit of a step ahead, I mean, it's huge. You're right. No, that's
Exactly.
No, that's awesome, man. So a lot of people see the contracts, but are not, actually, what happens behind the scenes. They don't know exactly. They don't get to see that part, right? And so, what was your real financial experience when you got to your first NFL deal?
My real financial experience. I guess I think the one that's most daunting, and I think the one that most comes up for athletes, but maybe gets brushed under the rug, is that I had a financial advisor that was given through me through my agent, and super cool guy. You know, when you're young, you don't know anything about finances. You're really trusting in people, as athletes do, to do the things that need to be done, so you can focus on the X's and O's. And so, doing that and understanding, and then realizing that as I look back, like when I was getting paid, I had a $2.1 million 4-year deal. So that was cool. Comparatively, when you're sitting next to Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, you're looking at their checks. You're like, oh, you have a few more zeros on yours.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting. That's cool. But no, going back to story, essentially I found out that there was like my financial advisor pretty much got arrested and went to jail for like this. It was a Ponzi scheme-esque type of thing, right? And so being a young player, realizing that every purchase I was making or everything I was doing was spending from a straight debit card. There was no credit, there was no investments. Really looking, if I didn't get the second deal to put myself in the position that I'm in now, I would have been shit out of luck, so to speak,
yeah.
right? And so I think that's a common reality of a lot of guys that kind of doesn't get really spoken about a lot of times. We see the NFL or athletes lose a lot of money, and we get condemned for it, which we should. It's our decisions, but, we hire people to help us, and I think there needs to be more accountability with the people that we decide to help us, than sitting here putting it on a 21, 22, 23-year-old. Granted, they're grown men, I get that, but, when you're paying people to do a service, it's not really fair just to just put everything on the athlete's shoulders. And so, that was my kinda awakening, kinda, um, coulda really messed me up really bad.
Right, right, yeah. I mean, you look at some of these guys, they come in and it's like, oh, they're wearing, their diamond necklaces, diamond rings, all these
Yeah.
things, they have these flashy
Yep.
cars, houses, but how difficult is it to not go out and like want to buy something? You're excited, you just came into a lot of money, you never even came close to this. Obviously NIL is a whole different ball game now, but at the same time, when you're first in that first contract, regardless whether it's $1 million or $40 million, it's like, man, you got to have a little bit of fun with it in the beginning, but at the same time, everybody talks about financial literacy, and like you said, they condemn the players for it for not understanding what to do with it. But how is it in the league? I guess with the financial literacy aspect of it, are they doing a good job of teaching players what they should be doing with their money at this point?
I think they do. You have rookie symposium, right? And so they educate guys. You have people on the staff that you can talk to, not necessarily financial minded people, but people that have been through what you've been through, right? But I think you have to understand. I want people to understand is that how does a kid that's never had anything who came into money who's around multimillionaires that have things that he wants, and then he's not gonna go get the things that he wants to try to match the lifestyle, right? Going back, you have to say Von Miller, D. Ware. Well, these guys are making real money. Von Miller's having a good time, right? Got his nice cars, has some chains and stuff like that, nice clothes, and you're like, well, shoot, man, I'm trying to shop at that dealers. I want to go to the rodeo, so to speak, and get the Gucci's and all that type of stuff. And so it's a little bit hard because now you're around people and you're seeing things and you want to live like that, but not realizing, you know, the difference in checks and how long they've been making money. You just came into money.
Yeah,
Can you afford all this? And so it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
right.
But the league does do good, but it's hard when you got a kid like myself that came in that just wants everything and sees everything, sees the Mercedes, sees the Rolls Royces and everything, but and wants to live like that. How you tell a kid to not do that, right? When they
Mhm.
have the money, we think it's forever, but we understand it's finite, not infinite.
Yes, exactly. Right. And you see how fast that money can go, right? It's like you start spending, you're
Mhm.
like, man, you're trying to keep up with those guys. It's almost impossible, right? And so
It
you're
is.
absolutely right. And so 2022 comes around, the 2022-23 season, right? You retire. What was that transition really like for you? Because, in the league, everything is structured. You and I have had offline conversations about this where, meals, training, medical, your entire schedule, is kind of taken care of for you, right? So what was the biggest shock once all of that suddenly went away?
Well, it's funny. I tell people whether you decide to stop, get kicked out the league, or your body just breaks down. It's never easy for anybody. Me, I decided to stop my 10th year in the NFL. The knee was barely bending. The body was breaking down. I was pulling up every morning like COVID happened. I was just pulling up every morning like, man, how much do I love this, right? Like, what's going on here? Play was deteriorating. And so I was like, you know what? After this season, I just remember halfway through the season, I was like, I'm gonna start really enjoying this and taking it all in because I don't think I have much more left for this. And so that's when you kind of come out for the pregame. You're laying on the 50-yard line, just staring at the sky. The game. I remember the game is going on. We're playing the Steelers in Cleveland. The game's going on. I'm just kind of looking around in the stadium, just like, wow, this is cool, like this is great, man. But then, in retirement, to get to your point or your question, it was tough, right? But I tell people I was living like Pepe Le Pew the first 2 years, year and a half, really having a good time, traveling. But then realizing I need to be a grown up and take care of myself. And in that moment, trying to realize I need to be a grown up and take care of myself, understood I knew nothing about how to take care of myself in the real world, right? When I needed something, anything medically, I went to the training room. When I needed some information, I went to my agent. When I wanted to do something, to travel somewhere, I went to my manager, right? And so it's one of those things you have everybody in the ecosystem to do. Hey, I need this, blah, blah, blah. Hang up, it's done. And then you retire, that whole ecosystem's gone, right? I haven't talked to my agent in 4 years since I've been retired. He asked me for the last check, paid it. Vamoose hasn't. There's nobody there on that end to help you. Luckily, I have a long runway financially, so I still have them there that I can pull on and ask for questions, and they watch my money, so that's nice. But still, the access and connections. Hey, I want to travel here. I want to do this. I want to go to a club in Miami, and know the promoter to get the table and skip the line. Right, that's all access that you have while you're in the league, and then you retire. You know, I remember I asked one of my old teammates, I said, "Hey man, I'm trying to work on something. I have this idea. I see you're on this board, and you work in this space in the off season. I would love to talk to you." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll hit you up in the give me I hit you up in the near future." And I was like, and that's when it dawned on me, like, damn, like you're really out, fam. These guys just don't have time for you anymore. It wasn't like I'm so disrespected, like F you. It was like, you know what, like I get it. Because if I was in the league still and you called me, would I have time in my limited time of the off season to want to spend with you to do what you want to do? I would like to say I would like to think I would, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? So it was very eye opening experience to realize everything was gone, everything you knew was gone, and there was nobody to help you. You realize that you have benefits through the NFL, but I think the one disconnect that I tell people from the benefits from the NFL to what we had, the lifestyle we had in the league, is that you expect me to reach out to you to ask you for help when my whole career in the NFL, it was don't ask for help, get it done, do it yourself, right? Of course, we have an ecosystem behind us, but we're paying that ecosystem. So when you have a question and you expect that answer, the league doesn't work that way. You're not paying them to do anything. You put your dues in and everything, yeah, but I think that the urgency isn't as there. And then you give an athlete, you got to let a guy try one or two things himself, and it just takes more than 2 minutes, it's over. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
how can we really make that an easier transition for the guys so they can have what they want, have the support they need, but also have the no judgment zone to be able to ask the questions that they need to ask. And so it's tough. I think a lot of people, for example, I'll say the last thing I'll say is that when I'm in the league, and I'm doing pretty good. Oh, Malik is the best. Malik is the best, right? Malik gets hurt. Dylan comes in the league. You're a high round draft pick. We have helmets on. We have jerseys. The only thing that's different is our numbers in our name. Um, Malik gets carted off the field. Everybody's clapping. Dylan comes on. Everybody forgot about Malik. They're like, let's go. Let's
Right.
go. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you have and then say, well, okay, his career ending. You're like, damn, that sucks. But hey, Dylan's killing it, bro. Do you see how many stats he had? How many tackles? You see his pass rushes? He's going to be a dog, man. We don't need Malik no more. Well, how do you think that makes the athlete feel that just got, his whole life is turned upside down? You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's a little bit of a narrative that needs to be looked at it more, right? Because we talk about depression and other things that go on with people when you're loved and you have everything and it's stripped away from you. What is that like? Not many people understand what it's like to have that, right? I mean, I did a TED talk and it was like, was it better to have had a loss or never had it all? And I asked myself a lot that question, and I think it's always better to have had and lost because you got to experience it.
Hmm.
But when you sit first class going, say, Dubai, and then you're going to Dubai again and you're riding coach, you're like looking at the people in first, like, this is BS, man. I
Yeah.
know what that experience is like. I know what I'm getting. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then you go to coach and you just realize the differences. And so it is a little bit of heartbreaking for the athlete. And it's a tough adjustment,
Hmm.
especially when you depend on people and people tell you that you're family and that and that we're good. We're always going to be good. And you realize that's just not the case. But, it's too late.
Yeah. You're right, yeah, and there's obviously a lot of, players that this is impacting, whether, like you said, whether they had 1 year in the league or if they had, 15 to 20 year, in the league, but, it almost seems like it'd almost be more difficult for someone who has been in it longer because literally their entire adulthood, they've been taken care of when it comes to this stuff, but, like you mentioned, to your point, Father Time catches up with you regardless, it doesn't matter
Yep.
who you are, I mean, Tom Brady, look at him, it's like it happens, right? And so
Yep.
LeBron James, I mean, even though he's still dominating, it's still
Yep.
catching up with him, right? And I think he
Yep.
said he's just like, I'm kicking Father Time's ass. I would agree, but at
Yep.
the same time, you're not going to do it till you're, 70. Well, I say that and
Yeah.
watch he ends up
Well,
doing it,
too,
right?
he can see, but to your point, he can say that, and I do agree with him. He's a beast. Take
Yeah,
nothing away from Mr. James.
right.
But what are the repercussions when he's done, right? We can sit here, and I think that's the like the foresight that you don't really have, right? Yeah, you're killing now, but when the knees start hurting, right? I mean, we can look
Yeah,
at ourselves from other older generation, and see how the way they're walking, the way their knees are buckling, or the way their shoulders, or their neck, or their back, or their ankles, right? And in any sport, not just Mr. James. And so it's one of those things like, yeah, you're kicking his butt now, but just wait, he's gonna pop back up and say,
yeah,
"Gotcha." You know what I'm
yes,
saying? So
exactly.
yeah, so I think that's something we gotta look at too, a little foresight, but he's a
Yeah,
beast. I love watching him play. As I live in LA, I'm glad
of
he's in our
course.
market because we get to, experience his greatness.
Yeah, exactly. I actually just recently had that conversation with somebody is where, you're probably going to see people with less long careers because of the fact that they're going to be able to secure that money earlier because of all the money that's being, generated through the league right now. But then because at the same time, they want to be able to have a nice life after the fact, right?
Yep,
Yes, you love
yep,
football, but at the same time, you want to have a life with your kids, your family, and then be able to enjoy that money rather than being having to hobble around, because you're just beat up so bad, especially players in the trenches, right? I mean, you
yeah,
guys are just killing each other. So, I
yeah.
agree with you on that,
I
absolutely,
mean,
it's
but that's wishful though, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're making $100 million and you're like, "Fuck, okay, I have 100 million," they're offer you another, fuck, let's just say $50 million. Are you really gonna stop playing? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna go get this money. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah,
that's the hardships to live in a capitalist society. Um, you know what I mean? And you're making, and then you realize in retirement that you're never gonna make that type of money. At least early, you're going to have, or really probably never.
right.
And so it's a tough battle, especially in the NFL. I mean, they're only really dangling guaranteed money in front of you, right? And so
Yes,
once you get your guaranteed, and then they're like, okay, cool, thanks, bye. Now you're like, okay, I had plans for all of this, but I just got this. I got to keep going, and
yes,
so it's an interesting battle with the finances, and when to stop, but also when to keep going. It's an interesting inner battle for sure.
right. Yeah, exactly,
But
it's
look at Aaron
everyone's.
Donald. Sorry, but look at Aaron
No,
Donald,
you're
right?
good, yeah.
10 years, said I'm done. That's a use case to your point where he did exactly what you said. He said, I'm good. I'm done with the money. That's he could have made a hell of a lot more money playing, and maybe probably not even being as good as he was, just deteriorating, but still he is who he is, right? But he said, no, my body and my family matter, and that's where I'm gonna go. So to your point, you're right.
Yeah. Well, it's more along the lines of, like, each player's perspective on when's enough, right? Like, money and at the same time, it's the balance between, what kind of lifestyle you wanna have after, but also are
Yep.
you gonna be able to enjoy it, right? So it's really everyone
Yep.
has to just kind of figure that out for themselves if they are lucky enough to make the decision themselves and they're not kicked out.
Exactly. We're talking
Yeah.
about a luxury,
Yes.
right? That not many people may have, is be able to say, okay, cool. I'm gonna leave that $100 million on the table. I'm
Yeah.
okay. But it's funny because you said enough is enough. I was in Denver after my fourth year. We just won a Super Bowl, and I'm doing my recent contract, and I'm talking to John Elway, and he offered me like a 5 year, 53 million or something like that. Nah, and he offered what he offered to Derek Wolf. And I was like, nah, I just feel like it's not enough. Like I can get more. And then I think they offered just a little, or they started less and then offered up to 53. And he was like, Malik, how much is enough? And I was like, John, it's never enough, And so it's like, especially when you put yourself in that position and when you're working for not free, because I don't want to disrespect people, you know what I'm saying? Man, I made like $300,000, $400,000 a year, but to do what I'm doing and see what other people are making, it's like, nah, I'm making up money from the back end. And so it's just, you said that, so it just reminded me of that. But it's never enough until I realize that it's enough, right? So you got to get your
Yeah.
fill.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I personally never blame people who try to get more because it's like at the end of the day, you gotta do what's best for number one, right? At this, but then you have some people who are just pissed off because they're like, man, what? He's just greedy, he's not thinking about the team, and it's like But to your exact point, you go and have a a career-ending injury, and then you're done. They're gonna
Mhm.
forget about you anyways, and so it's just
Yep.
like you got to think about yourself, and of course there's a balance. So I can understand the business side of it, but I can also understand the individual side of it.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's
Yeah,
funny because to your point, you always see these people, the ESPN commentators, the everyday Joe, people that work. Let me go to your job and tell you, like, hey man, take the pay cut so the team can be better. Like, yeah, F you. You know what I mean? It's like that doesn't make any sense for me and my family, you know. So it's always funny when you have fans or people telling you to kind of just, the team matters. So let's build the team up when that team's gonna let go you like that as soon as another guy comes in, or as soon as they get all the data from that harness that you wear at practice and during the game, a little thing on the back of your jersey, how fast you run, how powerful you are, and then compare it to that younger kid to say, oh, here's the next Malik Jackson. Let's get Dylan. Cool. Hey, Dylan, come on here. Now you expect, now I'm gone. So it's like, it's always on the player to be more thoughtful of the team, but the team is really thoughtful of the player, right? And so there's always that
exactly.
battle. And then the fans start chomping at you. It's like, yo, get out of here. But
Yes.
it's the world of sports.
Yes. Yeah, it always seems like the players get those big contracts and then they'll have like one bad game and everyone's just like, "Oh, you're getting all this money and you can't get two
Hmm.
sacks, you can't have a touchdown every game." It's
It's
like,
like,
come on, man.
you come fight this 350 pound guy that's out here. Some of these guys are really good, and just the game gets better and better. And that's when I had to realize I had to leave. I remember I took a base block, and I was like, or it was a pass rush, and I hit him, try to get off the block, and I'm like, damn. I'm like, all right, let me go. I'm like, I can't feet off the ground. I'm like, holy smokes, these guys are
Yeah.
strong now. So you
Yeah.
just had the realization that it just, you know, it's true what they say about this game is not for long.
Mhm.
And it is from many metrics, and a lot of it is just a lot of it is skill, a lot of it is power, a lot of just durability. I'm a strong believer. I love the game of football. It changed my life. But watching it now, I'm like, I cannot believe I played this game. Like, this is
Right.
insane. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but I would never tell a kid to never follow his dream, but just understand really what you're giving up, and don't be naive to the fact of what your trade-off is. There is a
Mhm.
trade-off playing sports in this game. So just
Yeah.
understand that.
Right. No, exactly. Well, obviously you're doing your part in helping people because again, you're not the only one who's being affected by this, a lot of people. So today, the Care League,
Mhm.
you started that, right? It's strictly built for it's not strictly built for athletes, right? It's for
Mm-mm.
everybody, right? So anybody who's hearing about Care League for the first time, can you kind of break that down for us and tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, so understanding my background in the NFL, all the access connections that we just spoke about, and then in my retirement, I just truly feel like there was a need and an opportunity here to help people. We started with athletes as understanding what they lose when they're in the league, but also understanding that professionals, executives, stay-at-home moms, right? People, stay-at-home wives, people that truly have a lot on their plate, who can they call to be able to take some stress off. And so that's where we came up as a Care League. We are a high-end concierge company, an executive assistant company. And what we do is really sell status, peace of mind, and access. When somebody like yourself sits there and busts their butt to put themselves in a financial position, you want to be able to live like that, right? You want to be able to go to the top restaurants. You want to be able to go to the top places, have connections to the promoters, get discounted rates, right? It's an amazing thing. When you make more money, a lot more things are free. It's a crazy dynamic, but it is what it is, right? And so being able to really help people when they want to do things, right? If you're a stay-at-home mom, right, and you're doing your stuff, do you need your house washed, power washed, right? Do you need your HVAC system cleaned out? It's summer now. Let's clean out your pool, right? We really just take a lot of the thought process out of the day-to-day thoughts, and being able to just allow you to take care of your family, yourself, and your business. And so that's where we really thrive. Professionals, executives, so like I said, stay-at-home moms, and current retired athletes, we help really allow them to live the life that they want to live and have the access, connections, and status that they've earned.
Man, no, and it buys people back their time, right? When you're doing that, because how much time is wasted when you are looking for these different things and trying to make those connections and going, and 90% of the time, you're not even going to make the right connection. You're not even going to get what you're
Exactly.
really looking for, right? So you take that off of their plate.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. It's funny. Some case studies, right? I had a good friend say, hey, Malik, man, I have a bachelor party in Miami. I can't get into this said club. Can you help us out? I knew the promoter, got him in there, got him at a good table, discounted rate, right? Another guy needed to move, and another guy has a summer family vacation that we set up. Another person was like, hey, I work too hard, and all these fake foods are killing me. Do you have any connections? Yeah, we have a connection through a personal shopping company, right? So it's really doing the work on our end to create a Rolodex so when our members need something, they have it like that. We don't spend the hour finding the person who has the answers to then spend more hours getting the answer. We spend the hour as soon as the question is asked, looking through our Rolodex, getting the answer, and then giving it back to you. So, it's really just being the back end for the life you want to live, and like I said, really providing those access and connections, the status, the peace of mind. I mean, it's not only like leisure and lifestyle; it's really day to day needs, business needs, and concierge services is the three silos that we thrive in. Right? You need your email pinged out, you need your calendar set. You have a meeting with Dylan. Okay, here's Dylan. This is who he is. Maybe some questions you should ask who introduced you to Dylan, right? So you can have just an understanding going into the meeting. It's really creating our members, giving them almost like that game plan from the NFL, right? Where here's your game plan on the business side.
Love it, man. It's like, a very high level personal assistant, right? And someone that's always available for you.
Exactly. A well-connected personal assistant is what we really are
Yeah.
selling. And like I said, you can go to any other company and they'll give you a personal assistant. That person's waiting there like, hey, what do you want me to do? We're saying,
Mhm.
hey, it's summer, it's fall, it's spring. Hey, it's okay, cool. Fall just came, right? School's back in session. Hey, we got summer next year. What do you want to do? Let's start thinking this out. How many points you have in your Amex card? Let's utilize these, right? Things that people don't really think about as they have things. How can we plug everything together to make your life easier, less expensive, more connected?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, it's hard to put a price on time. If you don't mind me asking, what is the cost of this? But at the same time, it's just like for me, like I have 5 kids of my
Mhm.
own, Malik. You know
Mhm.
that, right? And so it's like
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm spending as much time with them as possible instead of always having to do all these other stuff that takes all my time away from them.
Exactly. So no, to answer your question, we are $800 a month. We've done market research. If you want to do like I said, getting a private assistant, executive assistant, it's about $30,000 to $100,000 a year. And that person is not connected. They're not doing the health and wellness. They're not doing the concierge services, right? They're calling from Yelp or they're calling a restaurant. We are calling the manager or the ownership group to say, hey, we want this. We have a special client. They need to get in, or one of our clients needs to get in. All our clients are special. So yeah, we think $800 a month for a private assistant to have call 24/7, but also a well connected private assistant is invaluable, right? And so we're looking
It
to be
is.
able to help all people, right? Whether depending on whatever income, we understand the stage of the world, right? But that doesn't mean that life doesn't go on and that you should still live the life that you want to live. And so I think our connections are more valuable now because of things are getting little few more hardships and the world's kind of going where it goes, right? And like you said, having 5 kids, I mean, things fall through the cracks, right? But can we sit here and add value to the back end to you? We provide our services to your wife? Hey, use these people, let them take care of anything that you need, right? And so it's really adding value because as you understand, you're working, you're grinding, your wife is doing what she's doing, but when it comes to the family, how can we help take things off your plate? Or when it comes to work, how can we help? Or if for concierge, it's summertime, I'm sure you guys want to travel, right? Go to say you want to go to Redwoods. Like, okay, cool, let's get the RV. We've set the RV up. We've got the hotel. We got the camp yard set for everything, right? And it's like, so you don't have to think about that stuff. You just know it's getting done and your kids are going to love it. And you're going to be the best dad ever.
Yeah, exactly. How much money is lost on the back end when you're not when all those things do fall through the cracks, right?
Yep.
I know people who are paying 500 bucks a week just to have their house cleaned, right? And so it's like that is absolutely worth it because again, you can't put a price on that, because
Yep.
everybody waits till the last second to do things, especially when you have a lot of kids or you're just rushed, and that's when it
Yep.
gets expensive, right? So like you
Yep.
said, the planning and all of that stuff when you're trying to do stuff last second, you're going to waste a ton of money, a whole lot more than $800, a month.
Yep,
So
a
yeah,
whole lot
absolutely.
more. Yep.
Yes.
You're right, and, you pay for Netflix, AAA, these are things that you need and that you want, right? But at the end of the day, you're gonna get more usage out of us because you're putting things on our plate to do the things that you wanna do, right? I think something that sets us apart as well is that we sit here and understand that our members are valuable to not only us, not only to themselves, not only to them families, so that but for you to say, "Hey, I need somebody to come, clean my house." Cool, we got you, Dylan. But what we're going to do is take an next step to do a background check on this person to make sure we're not sending anybody in there that's going to treat your house wrong or make the vibes wrong or steal anything, right? And so it's one of those things
Mhm.
that understanding of the life I lived. And I think, having the experience that I've been able to have, it puts me in a unique position because I know what it's supposed to feel like. I know what it's supposed to look like. And so being able to know what it's supposed to look like and then also know and have the connections and let's pair the two and let's provide a product, a high end product for people that's affordable to allow them to live just like every movie star, just like every top athlete.
Exactly. What really comes to mind for me, Malik, is like emergencies. Life hits hard, right? And so
Mhm.
you could be the most prioritized person and you're still going to have things happen in life that you weren't prepared for, right? And so that is another area where you guys can come into play and assist in those situations, because how, if you're sitting in the hospital with your kid or you're in the hospital yourself, how are you going to take care of all that stuff, right? So that's essentially what
Exactly.
it's for as well.
Exactly. No, it's really we're real deal help, right? And I say that not saying lightly, like we're really helping you be who you want to be, and really negate the issues and problems of the moment, right? Whatever moment pops up, whatever issue you have, just know you can call somebody and say, "Hey, I need this, buy this, and I need it done now." We got you, right? And it's taken care of, and you can trust us to know it's going to be taken care of. And so, really, just having peace of mind. I keep saying it, but really, that peace of mind and that help. I mean, some of the richest people in the world have private assistants, right? And why shouldn't you be able to have the same type of access connections, just because you're not, Fortune 500 CEO?
Exactly. Nope, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. And so for anybody who's listening, please make sure you guys aren't waiting until the last second. Make sure you guys are reaching out to Malik. Take advantage of this because it is absolutely worth it. Don't be, in the hospital room or something and be like, "Oh man, I listened to that podcast. I should have reached out." So
yep. Think
please make
think
sure you
about that
guys are.
little kid's
Yeah.
face.
Yes.
Think
Yep.
about your little kid's face and you say, "Oh, how sad would that kid be if you just would have took the time out to call the care league and get that
Mhm.
get that Disney trip planned, right? Get that RV trip planned, right?"
No, I love it, Malik. Awesome, man. Well, you're doing incredible work, and I'm looking forward to everybody getting to, take advantage of this. So before we wrap up, I did want to switch gears a little bit because I want to talk
Hmm.
or touch on Tiger Me. So for
Hmm.
anybody who doesn't know what Tiger Me is, it's an AI powered education platform that helps students navigate the college admissions process with data driven guidance and clear pathways to higher education. Okay. So what do you think tools like that are so important right now for students who are making these decisions?
I think it's so important for first of all, thanks for shouting Tiger Me out, right? It's something that I've been able to join and be able to work on, as I love their mission and what they're building. I think it's important now because this life that we live in 2026, everything is just easier, right? I mean, while we're making robots, right? While we have AI, why ChatGPT and Claude are such huge things for us because everything's made easy, right? Well, I think Tiger Me has now stepped up and said we're going to make college admissions for these kids a lot easier, right? We're going to ease that for these kids, and in the day and age that we're in, it only makes sense to be able to have that for this group of people. And so I think for them being pioneers in the space to do this with the tech that's second to none, not only because they're pioneers in the space, but because Jack Jackson, who's built this, has had plenty of time, plenty of experience in the space, made all the connections he needs to make sure that what the product that he's bringing to this group of people is going to make sure that they get what they want. We already have case studies to show that it's a proven product. And so once I heard about it, did my deep dive on it, begged them to let me on the team to be able to push it and help them make it grow. It's just been a true blessing for me to be a part of this to help the youth. Not on because for me playing football, I always told myself once I was in the league that I will always tell a kid to never put all your eggs in one basket, because if you do, as soon as that bottom of that basket comes out, you're ruined, right? But if you can
Right.
put yourself and put your eggs in more baskets, and you have the help, the technology, and the resources to do that, then I've done what I said I was going to do, and I think this hits exactly what I said I want to do.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right. And I know your path was a little bit unique, of course, right? Making it to the NFL and everything worked the way it was supposed to. But do you feel like it would have been different? Your path might have been different if, you had something that guided your decisions in real time back in when you were in high school?
Oh, for sure, 100%. I think that's the missing piece because now you're taking everything on just a hunch, but
Yeah.
what if I have real data in front of me, real numbers, real answers, being able to help me curate the things I need to curate to get to send to these places and these schools, right? And be able to build myself up, in my resume up, so to speak. It would have been a huge help to me because maybe I could have done more. Granted, I went to SC, so it's not, I was going for football, but I think being able to utilize that and say, hey, maybe I can. Okay, I'll say it like this. I want to go for mechanical engineering. And the college was like, no, you're good. You're a sociology major. So I'm like, okay, cool. But if I would have had a tool like this, I could have really believed in myself to say, no, I can do this, right? This is the data. This is the background. This is what I've put together. This is what I want to do. And I think this tool is going to help the kids that maybe get pushed into another department, allow them to stand on business and really believe in themselves as they see it right in front of them.
Mhm. Right. And when you look at the percentage of how many athletes really truly make it to the league, like you said, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
So,
It is your dream.
hmm
Go for your dream, fight for it,
hmm
and people say, burn the boats. But at the same time,
hmm
you got to make sure that you have a backup plan to an extent, right? Because the percentage
Yep.
of you getting into the league and then having a career as long as you did, this is something that can actually help you prepare before that happens, right? So you have something in
Exactly.
mind, right?
Exactly. No, I love Tiger Me. It's a great product. Like I said, what Jack Jackson has built, it's very needed, and I'm just happy to be a part of the team.
Yes, no, amazing. Well, thanks for touching on that, Malik. I do appreciate it. And this has been awesome, man. I'm glad we got to talk again. But before we go, for people who are listening who want to learn more, connect with you, check out the Care League as well as Tiger Me. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so the Care League, you can hit us up. You can check us out online at thecareleague.org. You can hit me up at mbj at thecareleague.org. It's TheCareleague. Tiger Me, you can visit us at tigermeapp.com. Check us out, download the app. And let's really start putting our kids in a better position. And if you're a kid looking at this, seeing this, take your future in your own hands and realize what's there for you and what's real and what's fluff, and realize that Tiger Me is real and that you need to sit here and utilize this platform for the betterment of your future, and you won't regret it. There's very few times in life where things come that are purely for you to put you in a position to be great, and with no acts, just for you to be who you want to be. And so take this by the horns, and really allow yourself to utilize the services and the technology that are going to allow you to be great and be exactly who you want to be in the future.
I love it, Malik. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again, for joining me today and giving us all this information because it is a lot for the listeners to be able to take advantage of. So, thanks
Yes.
again for joining me and spending time with me and the listeners.
Hey, appreciate you, Dylan. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for allowing me to share Care League and Tiger Me. For like I said, all you young kids, go check out Tiger Me, and for the parents, check out Care League, and let's just make the world a better place.